All right, this is Subnetting in Practice, Case 4 for Quick Pay Market Network Design. I'm Kirti. Let's get started. What is subnetting? Subnetting is the process of breaking a larger network into smaller networks. So if you have a pie, the whole pie is the network, and then each piece that you take out is the subnet. Why is subnetting important? Every device that connects to a network uses an IP address. Considering that the IP address space is a finite resource and they were officially exhausted in April 2017, and the fact that new devices are being created and connected every day, as long as we continue with our current system, the need for more IP addresses will grow too. So benefits of a subnet. Subnets are like a logical partition of a network. This makes them both secure, so in this example, customer transactions and processes should be safe from threats, and reliable, so if one subnet, and for example, its access to cloud-based services goes down, another can run services. How do we subnet? By borrowing from the host bits of a network's IP address. Using binary, we can divide one large network into exponential smaller networks. So what is an IP address? An IP address is 32 binary bits divided into host portions and network portions. The network portion identifies the unique network. It's similar to an address's street name, so 123 wherever street. The host portion identifies each device or machine on a network. Following the address reference, this refers to the house number, 123 wherever street. 32 binary bits are broken into 4 octets. 1 octet equals 8 bits equals 1 byte. Binary bits are represented by ones and zeros. Yes or no, off or on. The combination of network and host portions, or bits, makes up all 4 octets, which creates an IP address. So the IP address in this case is 10.0.0.0/24. The /24 is CIDR notation, which is a quick way to determine the class of the network. Classes determine how much of tell us how much of the address belongs to the network and how much belongs to the host. The primary classes are A, B, and C. There's D and E also, but we're not going to talk about those. So ours /24 says it's a class C, which means it has 24 network bits and 8 host bits, and like we said, 32 binary bits makes up one IP address. 24 plus 8 equals 32. So, the subnetting requirements for Quick Pay Market. They have 6 departments with a max of 20 devices and a minimum of 5 devices in any given department. So that is a total of 63, and they require subnets for each department with reliable access to cloud-based services and transaction processing systems. So how do we determine subnets? So we're going to start here. X here is the number of host bits we borrow from the final octet. Y here is the number of remaining host bits for the subnet IP addresses, and here the number of hosts we can have on any given subnet is the block size minus 2, because a subnet starts with the network address, and then it has the host addresses and ends with the broadcasting address. So they have 6 departments, and they need to have at least 20 IP addresses to cover the 20 devices. So if we did not borrow at all, we would have one large network, but we need 6. If we borrowed 1 host bit, we could make 2 networks, subnets. If we borrowed 2, we could make 4. But we need 6. And given that it goes in binary, it just doubles every time. So the lowest we could go would be borrowing 3 host bits for 8 subnets. And then that leaves us with 32 addresses we can make. But again, we have the network address, so take away one, and then we have the broadcast address, so taking away another one, which is that -2, so we can have a total of 30 devices on any given subnet. So the anatomy of a subnet mask. Subnet masks can be divided into classes and look different from regular IP addresses. So our IP address in this example, again, was 10.0.0.0. But the subnet mask, given that this is a class C or /24, would be 255.255.255.0. And in this scenario, since we're borrowing 3 host bits, it would look like this: 255.255.255.224, or 10.0.0.0/27. And that's because when we borrow from the final octet, we put the bits in the leading ones, or leading bits. So that would be right there. And we'll talk about that in just a second. So why 255? 255 is the summation of the binary bits in each octet, as demonstrated below. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 bits, 1 byte, 1 octet. And each bit has its own value starting from the front. So that would be 128 plus 64 plus 32 plus 16 plus 8 plus 4 plus 2 plus 1. All together equals 255. So since we're borrowing 3 in this example, that would be 128, because we're starting from the front, plus 64 plus 32. That's 4. Whoops. 12, 14. Yep. 3, 9, 12. 224. And that's how we end up with this right here. So, subnetting calculations overview. To determine a subnet mask, we first must determine how many host bits we need to borrow. Again, subnets multiply in binary. 1 host bit, or 2 to the 1, makes 2 subnets, 2 to the 4th, 4, so on. Since there are 6 departments, we'll need 6 or more subnets, meaning we'll need to borrow 2 to the 3rd host bits, creating 8 usable subnets. In the original IP address, the 24 refers to the number of network bits. We'll add the borrowed bits to it for a new CIDR notation of /27. The range of each subnet begins with the network/subnet address, including the host IP addresses, and ends with the broadcast address of each subnet. Given that we're borrowing 3 host bits, that leaves us with 5 host bits, or block sizes. There are 8 bits per octet. The formula to determine the number of hosts per subnet is 2 to the y minus 2. In this scenario, that'll be 2 to the 5 minus 2 equals 30 devices per network. To ensure that there's no overlap, we'll map out the valid range of addresses for each subnet first. So, subnet 1, we started off with 10.0.0.0, so we cannot overlap with that, and we can have 30 devices, and each one needs their own IP address. So our first device will be 10.0.0.1, and it will go on this subnet. Since there can be 30 devices, it will go all the way up to 10.0.0.30, and then we also have to leave 1 for the broadcast address, so that will be 10.0.0.31, and that is our first range of addresses. And then it just repeats for each one. It starts with 32, since we can't overlap with 31. The host IP address for this subnet would start off with 10.0.0.33 all the way to 62, and so on and so forth. So here we've ensured that there's no overlap, and that's how we make it all the way to 10.0.0.255 for all 8 subnets for this. All right, thanks for reading.